Oh, you too. Definitely been a while, but finally have brought home my personally owned D30. This is a Lenovo ThinkStation D30. It's got currently I think 96 gigs of RAM in 32, 32, and 32, and that bank of four is empty right now on the second CPU. I believe these are Xeon 2560s, V's, whatever, however the E, whatever, however Intel decides to name them. They're Sandy Bridge based, not Ivy Bridge, and this is the Sandy Bridge version of the D30. It came in two flavors, a Sandy Bridge model and an Ivy Bridge model, and this is the older Sandy Bridge model, but still perfectly fine for what we're going to be using for. I know these are both 8-core CPUs with 16 threads. So I will total have 16 cores and 32 threads. So definitely a lot more thread count than my 4790K system that I was using to render videos. And I won't have to worry about having no computer to use while the videos render. So I have to do a few things. First, I'm going to have to rehook up all these drives. I think these are two 1 terabyte drives. This is a 2 terabyte drive, another 1 terabyte drive. I have to reinstall all the cards. We have two EVGA GeForce GTX 970s, some old SLI bridge that seems to work. We have that USB 2 card from the rebuild of my 2010 gaming computer. We have a M2 to PCIe X1 Wi-Fi card with AC8260 installed. We have a Samsung Evo 860 M-SATA SSD. There is an M-SATA port on this motherboard. Only problem is this is only SATA 2, I believe, not SATA 3. So I'm going to use this kind of as a cache. It's a little bit faster than these older. I believe these are all SATA 2 hard drives, but anyway. The ports are SATA 6. I don't have it with me, but I also have a 512 gig SSD that I'll be installing in this bay, which has an adapter for a 2.5-inch drive, which will be the main boot drive of the machine. I'm pretty sure I'm going to RAID these two 1 terabyte drives in RAID 1. I believe is mirroring. I'm going to mirror those two drives. This is going to be where I store all the I'm going to store all the raw files on here. I'm going to store all the finished videos in here, and maybe just whatever on that. I will use this as a cache module for what's it called? Or I'll post all the projects on that that I'm working on in what do I use? DaVinci Resolve. That's what I've been using to edit these videos. And then that's really it. I'm going to go ahead, get these drives wired up, and install the SSD, install the other SSD, install all these cards, and we're going to get Windows 10 loaded up on the system. Alright, see you in a little bit. Alright, so we got all the cards installed. So here we have our two 970s, all the power leads hooked up, SLI bridge. It looks a little funny. It's meant for like a lot more slot, a lot larger slot spacing. Have our Wi-Fi card installed, USB lead for the Bluetooth, the PCI card. Have all our disk drives installed, the SSD is installed. I had to read how to properly hook up all these SATA connections to it because there are a bunch of different controllers on this machine. I believe there are two SATA 3 6 gigabits per second ports, and I hooked up the SSD to one of them, and then I hooked up the rest of the hard drives to the what they call the SCU controller, because I believe they're all SATA 2, so it doesn't really matter too much. Besides that, everything's really installed and good to go. I actually do have a Blu-ray drive installed on this machine. I don't know why, but I do have it. I do have to say that this is a great time to get into getting like a cheap workstation. I believe I picked up this workstation for about like $400-$500 with all this with all these components pre-installed besides the stuff I just added. And that's like a great price for the performance. So you get a complete system, and you could go even cheaper. So you could get like an older an LGA 1366 base system with a 6-core Xeon for like maybe $100, and they have like a high wattage power supply in it already. So you could just add a video card, and you have a very good cheap gaming computer. I remember back in the day it was not like this, but now with just how technology's kind of plateaued in the last decade, you could still have like decade-old stuff that's very good. When I first bought my original like used workstation machine, a Optiplex GX260, it was only like a few years old at the time. But if you go back, then that was like in the mid to late 2000s. But if you were to use like a late 90s machine, then it would be useless. It's just how times have changed. But you could get a machine like this that's like 7 years old, or like a machine that's like 10 years old even, and it's still very useful today. It's obviously going to change now that Intel and AMD have got respectively both their acts together in terms of increasing core count and features and actually pushing innovation, because AMD obviously came out with the FX line, which was garbage, and then Intel just stagnated because they had no competition. But now with that, and with Apple switching to ARM, we're going to see some hopefully exciting things in the future. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead, put on the side panel. We're going to boot up to the BIOS, and we're going to mess around with some BIOS settings and install Windows 10. All right, see you in a little bit. Okay, so you can see we're in the BIOS of the system. I am running the latest BIOS, dated of 2017. The newer Ivy Bridge models have a later BIOS that's been released this year. Going CPU summary. Oh, okay, so we have two Xeon E5 2670s in here at 2.6 gigahertz. The CPU has 8 cores, 16 threads. We have our 98 gigs of RAM, 1600 megahertz DDR3. We have our same Samsung SSD, Blu-ray drive, our MSATA drive, and that's just on the Intel controller, I believe. Let's go ahead and just see if we can mess with anything in here. That looks all good. Yep, Pneumaware, yep. Okay. Let's go South Bridge. Don't need any of this stuff here. Looks good. Looks good. Yeah, I usually have the boot options disabled with the network card if I don't need them. Let's see if everything's good in here. Yep. Yep, minimum CPU speed 1.2 gigahertz, max 2.6. There's probably a little bit of turbo there as well. Looks like we have, okay, do quick math. A megabyte of L2 cache. What is this? 20 megabytes of L3 cache per CPU. Hyperthreading all. VTES. SATA controller, HCI mode. Good. SCU. Yep, we have our 2 terabyte drive or 2 1 terabyte drives, another 1 terabyte drive. Nothing in the SCU port 4. Good. So many options in these professional systems BIOSes. TPM is active. They call it TCG on the Lenovo machines. Boot mode is UEFI. It all looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead. Let's set some RAID options. Oh yeah, boot setup. I had the MSATA as the top one. I'm gonna go ahead and set it instead to Zeta 0. I'm gonna make that top. I don't know if it really matters, but just for organization too as well. I wonder what this means when drive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, maybe like RAID drives. Okay. I believe it's Control I to get into the RAID BIOS on this machine, so I'm going to go ahead and spam that when I reboot. Oh, no, not yet. This is what I'm looking for. Yeah, Control I. There we go. Go ahead and create a RAID volume. Let's just call this very oops, I want to go back. Escape previous menu. Oops. Oh yeah, create. I usually have, such great names as RAID, mirror, yep, RAID 1, no, select, yep, RAID 1 mirror, select disk, select this, oh, space, select this, okay, enter done, capacity, yep, and is it really 884? 1 second. Yep, RAID 1, select this, 931.5, unless there's some sort of parity or something like that. 931.5, that's what I want to set up to. $931.5 gigabytes. Good math. Yep, that's fine. Oops, too fast. All right, you can see we have our RAID 1. I'm gonna leave this drive like this, leave this drive like this, and we're gonna go ahead. Let me go get my Windows 10 USB key. Got my key, probably should have put this in already. Let's go ahead and exit this. Yep. F12 to boot to the boot menu. And we want to go to, soundless is here, that's nice. So enter setup. Oh, I might need to reboot, might not have initialized that USB device. Or is it excluded from the boot order? Yep, there it is. Okay, let's get that in there. The last boot option's fine. Let's go ahead and save and exit. Let's hit F12. There we go, we got a key now. Let's go to UEFI boot on this. 64-bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and install Windows 10 on the SATA 3 enabled SSD. That is the 512 gig one in the SATA port, not the M SATA port. So I'm going to go ahead, install it, and we'll be back. Okay, so back after a little while, finally got Windows 10 installed on the machine. It was really a pain to get the, let me show you. I have all the drivers installed. The biggest pain was this Intel C600 SAS RAID controller driver for the SEU, because Intel, in their infinite wisdom, decided to remove basically all their drivers. It's awful. I mean, like a multi-billion-dollar company, and they can't host drivers for even a product that's only less than 10 years old. So I had to go onto some dodgy website and download one that worked. Now all my disk drives are displayed. I have all my Bluetooth. All these processors listed. Tons of threads. Haven't seen this many threads in the system in a while. Let's go fire up CPU-Z. We'll pull up hardware monitor and GPU-Z. And crystal disk info. I want to just make sure that my drive is on the right bus. Yep, so we have an Intel Xeon E5 2670, 32 nanometer Sandy Bridge EP. It's got 8 cores, 16 threads, and it looks like it boosts. I wonder what it boosts up to. I wonder if it has a turbo. I mean, I'm guessing it probably has a turbo on at least a few cores. Yep, 20 megabytes of cache, L3 cache, I mean. Lenovo, motherboard, C602 is the chipset, Sandy Bridge E. Memory, we have 96 gigs of DDR3 at 1600 megahertz. Oh, looks like one of my drives is, this is that 1 terabyte drive. I'll just use this as junk spare. Looks like it's got some relocated sectors. All my drives look good. My C drive, yep, SATA 600, perfect. Close that out. Okay, looks like we have our, oh really, the GTX? No, that can't be right. The GTX 970 only supports PCI Express 2.0. Huh. I could have swore it would be. It's got to be a 3.0 card. Maybe GPU-Z isn't reporting it right. But besides it, we have 2 of them. Latest driver from NVIDIA installed. Temps start looking all right. Looks like mid-50s for the CPUs. I mean, this is obviously an OEM system, so it's not like I have any ability to really add custom cooling. I repasted the CPUs, so they should be nice and cool. The GPUs are 30. The main one's in the 50s, but that's expected. They're right next to each other. I already went ahead and installed DaVinci Resolve on this system. I installed Steam. We'll go over a quick game and play a little bit of a Doom Eternal. Our Wi-Fi is up and running. Looks like everything's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and run a pass mark. and we'll see what it comes back with. Performance test. Bear with my tripod, it's not the best, so. All right, let's go ahead, we'll run this, and I'll come back with the results. All right, so after a quick pass mark run, looks like we've got overall ratings of 77th percentile of CPU, which is perfect, but then again, we have 2 of them, so I hope it would be pretty good. Our 2D and 3D graphic marks are pretty low, which is strange because this is a GTX 970 in here. I noticed that SLI is not really working correctly, if at all. I noticed GPU, Mike's technically 1 is doing jack all, or GPU 0 is doing everything. So that could be a reason why. Might have to go in the BIOS and make sure SLI is enabled. Memory mark 51st percentile. And this is with quad channel memory too, DDR3. Just marked 51 percentile. So got a pretty overall well-balanced system. Mainly only really care about the CPU. And then again, the video and rendering programs will use the GPUs regardless of SLI, so that's no big deal. But just for fun, let's fire up some Doom Eternal. I just tested it. This is a 1440p monitor, so it's going to be pretty stressed out, but we'll see how it runs. So, now obviously the CPUs, this whole setup is not meant for gaming. If I wanted to actually game on this, I'd put a faster clock Xeon in here. Gaming still really matters with higher clock speed rather than more cores. But then again, this game does use the Vulkan API, which does a very good job of leveraging basically all available hardware in order to get good performance. Recently, I believe maybe they just said they killed off SLI completely. They will be only supporting existing profiles. No new profiles will be developed, and no bug fixes or anything. Completely expected that. SLI's been dead for a long time now. Alright, yeah, whatever. I agree. Alright, let's go ahead. Did not save my settings here. Let's go to video. Oh, this all looks good. I have everything on high, default high, 1440p. Let's go ahead and just resume this one that I always play. Okay. I was just getting, yeah, we're only getting the, what I would say is cinematic experience here. 30 FPS. I can drop the settings. I mean, this is a pretty demanding game. It just came out. Our CPUs are doing not a lot, but our GPU is getting hammered, I believe. Strange. I still think GTX 9. This is getting pretty old, you know. Especially now that it's what, 3 generations behind. Playing like terrible. But yeah, this setup is not meant to be gaming. I just really just want to, this is YouTube, so I got to put one on, But all right, so I'm gonna go ahead, and this is the end of the video. I'm glad to finally get something that I can use all these cores for, and render my videos onto my main desktop. So I hope to get out new desktop builds pretty soon. All right, see you on the next one.